Good morning. Today's subject is Historical Sociological Foundation of Education, a paper taken from B.Ed second semester, paper code 104. Myself Sakshi Vermani Rishi, working as HOD in BLMCE College. Unit 1, from Unit 1, the topic of today's discussion is that pre-British period, education system in Vedic period, Buddhist period and Muslim period. Instructional objectives: to enable student teachers to understand the concept of education during pre-independence era, to comprehend the system of Indian education, to understand the aims of education, curriculum, methods, discipline during Vedic, Buddhist and Muslim period. The important contribution of ancient India is in the field of education. Albert Einstein said, "We owe a lot to the Indians who taught us how to count, without which no worthwhile scientific discovery could have made." Education in Vedic period. Basically, this system of education during the Vedic period was totally different from today's education system. The student life in Vedic period began with Upanyay ceremony. This was performed for 3 days, and the students go this chosen teacher called as Acharya. The ancient system of education were based on Vedas. Vedas occupy a very important place in the Indian life. 4 Vedas are Rig Ved, Samved, Yajurved and Atharvaved. Rig Ved is what? Rig Ved is the book of mantra. Samved is the book of chants. Yajurved is the book of rituals. And Atharvaved is the book of spells. The place of learning was called Gurukul in ancient Vedic period. And after the Upanyay ceremony, the pupils was called as Brahmachari. The home of the teacher or Acharya was the center of learning, which was situated in natural surroundings, as you have seen in the picture. The age limit of Upanyay was 8 years, 11 years and 12 years respectively for Brahmins, Kshatriyas and Vaishyas. But the learning process was almost dominated by the Brahmins. At the time passed, the other two castes, Kshatriyas and Vaishyas, entered to receive education, but Shudra castes people were denied to study the holy scripture. So, the aims of Vedic education, during Vedic period is inculcation of spiritual values, character formation, development of social values, all-round development, development of self-efficiency, armed system, practicability, preservation and promotion of culture, simple living and high thinking. So the aims, what were the aims of education were? The aim of Vedic education was to realize supreme and achieve the supreme consciousness. That is why the inculcation of spiritual values was very essential. Preservation and spread of ancient culture was the aim of ancient education system. Formation of good and moral character was also another aim of Vedic education. For the development of vocational efficiency, healthy, positive attitude and dignity of labor were fostered in pupils during Vedic period. Inculcation of social and civic duties was one of the aim in which Vedic period, which was necessary for a better human life. Salient features of Vedic period were: the ancient Indian education emerged from the Vedas, as they were the main source of Indian philosophy of life. The four Vedas are, which we have seen in the previous slide: Rig Ved, Samved, Yajurved and Atharvaved. The attitude of people towards life was intellectual, spiritual rather than materialistic. Their objective was to attain salvation. Now what salvation is? Salvation is liberation from this material world. Moksha जिसे हम कहते हैं, through education, and we attain moksha only through the process of education, and that too through religious education. So methods of instruction during Vedic period is, there were mainly three stages of learning according to Vedas. First is Sarvan. Sarvan is the first stage. It means listening towards the Guru, the listening towards the text or the words uttered by the teacher. By this method of education, knowledge was conserved and transmitted to the oncoming generation. The second step is Manan. Manan is what it means to internalize or to assimilate what was given to the pupil, reflection on the topic taught by the teacher. And the third is the stage which is known as Nidhyasa, which means meditation. It is the highest stage. It represents the highest stage in which the realization of the supreme is there, the realization of your own self is there. Medium of instruction is Sanskrit, and here the concept of discipline in Vedic period is self-control and self-discipline. Teacher has a very good position, a pious position. Teacher act as a spiritual and as well as an intellectual guru. Curriculum during this period, the curriculum during Vedic period was dominated by teaching of Vedas and Vedic literature, spiritual and moral lessons. The other subjects like philosophy, astrology, logic, grammar, ethics were teaching during Vedic period. Also, physical education was included in the curriculum. Students were learned wrestling, hunting, dancing, etc. Some professional and technical knowledge like astronomy, Ayurveda were the students learned in the curriculum. So conclusion is what in Vedic era, education had the prominent place in society. It was considered as pious and important for society. The ancient Indian education, it was successful in preserving and spreading its culture. The whole system of education infused a sense of responsibilities and social values. So this is all about education system in ancient India. Next comes the Buddhist period. In the early Buddhist, education was limited with the monasteries and only for the members of monastery. But later on, it was open to all. Even lay people got scope to have education in those institutions. Buddhist period is roughly started from 600 BC. It is to be said on the foundation of Buddhism, a new and special education system originated in ancient India. Buddhism made a tremendous movement which played a valuable role in the development of education system in India. The core of Buddha's teaching contained three major points: discipline, meditation, and wisdom. Wisdom is what? It is the goal and deep meditation or concentration in the crucial process towards achieving wisdom. Discipline through observing the precepts is the method that helps one to achieve deep meditation. Wisdom will then be realized naturally. Buddha's entire teaching, as conveyed in the sutras, never really depart from these three points. During Buddhist period, students were allowed to stay in viharas, sanghara. Students have to present themselves before teacher to ask for permission, known as pabja, which means to go out. Whenever students want to go out, जब भी उन्हें कहीं बाहर जाना होता था, they seek permission from their teachers. Aims of education during Buddhist period was development of education, character formation, religious education, preparation for life, teaching four noble truths of life. So those four noble truths were: the world is full of suffering, and desires are the main cause of suffering. Everywhere there is suffering, and if we want to remove all the desires from ourselves, if we have control on our desires, we attain the path of liberation, we attain the path of nirvana, we attain the path of moksha. And all these teachings of four noble truths, they are based on eightfold paths. Eightfold paths are right conduct, right concentration, right knowledge, right mindset. So method of instruction during Buddhist period is with oral transactions. Writing also was introduced during this period. Initial stage pe lecture method is there, self study is there, meditation is there. But as the student goes on higher stage, discussion and debate method was also included. Curriculum during Buddhist period, the curriculum was chiefly spiritual in nature. Focus on study of religious books, Beside this, spinning, weaving, printing of the clothes, tailoring, sketching, accountancy, medicine, surgery were the other subjects of Buddhist education. Rules for students during Buddhist period. The in education system there were some rules made for the students. As आज भी अगर हम देखें, every school has its own rules and regulations and every student have to follow those. Similarly, in those days also there were some rules made for the students, और हर बच्चे को वो rule follow करना is very very important. Number one is not to kill any living being, नॉट टू एक्सेप्ट एनीथिंग टू गिवन टू देम. जो भी बच्चों को कोई कुछ अगर दे देता था तो बच्चे वो उसे अपने पास नहीं रखते थे. नॉट टू टेल अ लाई, नॉट टू टेक इंटरेस्ट इन म्यूजिक, डांस एट्सेट्रा, नॉट टू एक्सेप्ट गिफ्ट्स ऑफ गोल्ड एंड सिल्वर, do not speak ill of anybody, do not use any intoxicating things, eat food only at the time given to you, don't eat food at improper time, live free from impurity of character. So the position of teacher during Buddhist period is position was very pious. They were highly respected and honored by the students as well as by the society too. Teachers taught the discipline, etiquettes and simplicity. Teachers were lifelong students of the subjects. They were responsible for the mental development of the students and also for the proper education of the students. So to conclude, about Buddhist period is, in ancient period Buddhist monasteries, the aim of Buddhist education is to make a man free, intelligent, wise, moral, talented, non-violent, secular man. Buddhist education makes man judicious, humanist, logical, and free from superstitions. It's a matter of great pride that Buddhist education crossed Indian subcontinent. Buddhist education has made tremendous progress with the inclusion of modern subjects in the syllabus. So next is Muslim period. What is about Muslim period? The system of education in the Muslim period world was undifferentiated. The foremost aim of education during the Muslim period was the extension of knowledge and propagation of Islam. Learning took place in a variety of institutions, among them the halaq or study circles, maktab, elementary schools, palace schools, bookshops, literary salons, and the various types of colleges, masjid and madrasas. All the schools taught essentially the same subjects. During this period, education was imparted for the propagation of Islamic principles, laws, social conventions. Education was based on religion and its aim was to make person religious minded. Organization of education, if we talk about organization of education during Muslim period, the system of education in the Muslim period was unintegrated and undifferentiated. Learning took place in variety of institutions. So the aims of education during Muslim period were spread of Islam, as they thought it's their pious duty to spread religion, spread of Muslim culture, formation of character, and achievement of worldly affairs, as Muslims think that there is no rebirth. इस जिंदगी के बाद नेक्स्ट कोई ज़िंदगी नहीं है, तो जो कुछ भी इस दुनिया में एन्जॉयमेंट पर्पस के लिए है, वी शुड एन्जॉय ऑल दोज थिंग्स. ऑल मटेरियलिस्टिक जो थिंग्स हैं, लग्जरीज जो हैं, वर्ल्डली अफेयर्स हैं, वो हम सबको एन्जॉय करना है एंड लिव आर लाइफ टू द फुलेस्ट, एन्जॉय आर लाइफ टू द फुलेस्ट एज देयर इज़ नो rebirth. Promotion of culture is also one of the aim of Muslim education. Practical knowledge, practical education is given, because practical education in a sense that there is no rebirth. Live your life practically. Free education, language education. So the teacher plays a very important role in Muslim period. Students were informed to respect their teachers. Methods of teaching is memorization, rote learning. Teaching was done through direct and oral method. Students were encouraged to study by their own self. Teachers helped them whenever they needed. जब भी टीचर की ज़रूरत है स्टूडेंट की, वो हेल्प करेगी. अदरवाइज स्टूडेंट्स को पहले खुद सेल्फ स्टडी करना इज़ नेसेसरी. Curriculum, Learning of 3 hours included in the curriculum: reading, writing, arithmetic, focus on grammar, Persian, Arabic, and Urdu language, arithmetic, conversation, poetry, good manners were included in the curriculum, music, dance, fine arts learned by experts. If we talk about the discipline during Muslim period, strict discipline is to be was to be followed during Muslim period. So the highlights of the features of Muslim education were: Muslim education started when the child was 4 years 4 months 4 years old. Usually the parents consulted the astrologer regarding the auspicious time for putting the child in the school. The education was free and fees were not charged because the aim of ruling minority was to spread Muslim culture in education. That is why they focus on spreading their own culture, propagating their own culture. Naturally, the teachers had to look for finances to rich nobles and merchants who were too glad to provide the necessary finances. The teacher was highly respected in the society. The cordial relation which existed between teacher and taught in the Hindu period continued during medieval times also. The system of punishment errant students existed. Physical punishment were often inflicted with cane. The monetary system which was existence during Muslim period is, according to this system, advanced students assisted the teacher in their work. The aim of Muslim education was to develop the latent faculties of the students. Efforts was made to develop their character and equip them with all that was essential for their material and moral well-being. Therefore, both religious and secular education was imparted to the students. Persian was the medium of instruction for primary and secondary education. Being the official language of the country, even Hindus eagerly learnt it. So, this is all about Muslim education. Today, what we have discussed in this video is that the system of education in different periods. Ancient period, where focus is on Vedas, spirituality, simple living, and high thinking. Buddhist period, where the focus is on Four Noble Truths, and which was based on eightfold paths of eightfold paths, that is right conduct, right concentration, right mindset, right knowledge. Then the Muslim period, where focus is on propagating and promoting their own culture. Thank you so much. These are the references. Thank you so much.